On today's show, we are introducing you to Gyrokinesis with Holly Bright and the Crimson Coast Dance Society. On today's show, exact copies of the real thing, bringing back the heyday at Sprout Lake and saving the Coast Salish language in the Cowichan Valley. That and more in the next 30 minutes. Gyrokinesis exercises are designed to move the entire body through spinal movement and joint articulation. It's similar to yoga, but it's not. It's got a dance basis in it. I've seen reports about it being connected to weight loss, but also recovery from exercises and the vigorous physical things that dancers would put themselves through. You need special certification to teach it. Holly Bright has that certification, and we're going to talk to her more and experience gyrokinesis on this edition of Go Island. But first, members of the Parksville District Qualicum Flyers show their building and flying skills on model airplanes that are an exact copy of the real thing. Here's Jocelyn Matwee. On the weekend of June 21st, the Parksville District Qualicum Flyers are holding their annual scale event, and if you'd like more information, the best thing to do is contact them directly through their website, pdqflyers.com. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. I've kind of jumped into the middle of a gyrokinesis class. Holly Bright is trained in this particular area of exercise. I'm noticing a lot of similarities to yoga with the breathing, is that right?
Inhale. Yeah, there is a really important aspect of the work, which is all about the breathing to stimulate the biological pump.
Okay, and what are you doing to me right now?
We're doing the wave.
Okay.
And you can exhale on the arch, moving forward, and inhale as you curl around. Beautiful, keeping the shoulders down and nice and wide, coming up into the arch.
And how is this benefiting my body?
And curling, well, you're also engaging the narrowing of the pelvis that we worked on earlier. And so we're engaging this core as we move and mobilizing the spine.
I think I'm breathing backwards. I think I'm...
No, you're not.
Okay.
And now ocean breath, exhale. So imagine that you can hear the sea in your exhale. Beautiful.
And this isn't very well known in Nanaimo, Holly?
Well, actually there are two of us, two colleagues who have taken the course of study together, and we're both teaching it. Bonnie McCarricker and myself.
And you've both been trained in New York for this?
We trained in various places, Montreal, Seattle, Vancouver.
Okay, we're going to talk more about that specific training and the different levels of training later on this edition of Go Island. In the meantime, we're heading over to Port Alberni. In its heyday, an event on Sprout Lake attracted thousands of spectators, and if some dedicated volunteers get their way through hard work, then that event will be back and bigger than ever. This is the first in a series of gyrokinesis classes offered by Crimson Coast Dance Society. You can get more details through their website, crimsoncoastdance.org. We're going to get more into the specifics of gyrokinesis. I think it's just a fabulous word with Holly Bright later on this edition of Go Island. It's time now, though, for a short break. Still ahead today on Go Island, a connection between money and saving a language, winners in the Classroom Energy Diet Challenge, and a sneak peek at the scene. That and more still to come today on Go. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. I'm jumping in partway through the first in a series of gyrokinesis classes through the Crimson Coast Dance Society, and I can tell already that's a type of exercise that you need to warm up with. These women here seem very fluid. They're in rhythm with their breathing, and to jump in and try to catch up to where they are even after just about a half an hour is very difficult. I think this is something that you need to start from the beginning with a warm-up process Then again, maybe I don't even know what I'm talking about at all. Holly, gyrokinesis is based on a lengthening of the spine, lower spine?
The principle is that we're going to engage the core and mobilize the spine and global joints.
Okay.
And we're going to do that in a way that initiates or inspires movement. So first we do begin with the stability concept and how we stabilize. We lift the pelvic floor, we narrow.
And it's not tightening, it's lifting.
No, it's just lifting. It's a gentle lift. You have degrees of strength that you can use. You can lift 10 degrees, 15, 20, 100% would be what you might call tightening. And then we narrow by drawing all of our bones and tissues toward our seed center, right here. And that produces a lift in the spine. Yeah, and you don't even have to manufacture it. It'll just happen. So relax.
Okay.
Lift the pelvic floor, narrow.
And you mentioned picturing a metal belt.
Or picturing a belt that is not like one that moves really easily, yes, like a steel belt. And as you narrow in towards your seed center, you can imagine that belt would fall down because you've narrowed in all the way around.
And how new is gyrokinesis, and why was it started?
Oh, okay. Gyrokinesis has been in development since the 80s. It continues to grow and change. Julio Horvath was a brilliant dancer. He had an injury, which is how a lot of practices begin. I believe Pilates started in the same way. And he required to find a way to work with his injuries. Dancers work with injuries all the time. It's our livelihood and we must. So we find a way to do it. And in the development of it, people became attracted to what he was doing in his warm-up, and he ended up developing a system for the company that he was working with, for himself, and teaching it to the company he was working with. And then the general public started to become interested in it, and it's gone through a number of evolutions and continues to grow and change.
Is it something that people would get involved with for weight loss, or is it sort of broader, bigger?
Well, I think it's broader and bigger. I think the idea is general well-being. And when we have a mobile spine,
that helps too sometimes.
When we have a mobile spine, we can move through life, we can go with the flow, and we can also, with a stabilized core and a strong center, have our sense of boundaries. So it really does promote a lot of behavioral psychological associations with movement, and developmentally we gain those, and so this just revisits that developmental work.
And the breathing.
And the breathing
is key.
Is totally key. Breathing is key. When we're not breathing, the alternative is, yeah. So we work with breath, and we work with it in a way that it actually supports the movement that we're doing. We have a sniffing breath.
And what does that do?
That just expands and contracts the spine while we're engaging our core, and oxygenates us. I think part of the principle is that no matter what movement we're doing or how we're breathing, that we can also have stability. And so that's what we're practicing. And we practice it so that when we go out into the world, we can have it no matter what we do. Julio was a really athletic man. He was a swimmer, gymnast in his younger years. He did some wrestling, and it's safe to say that this system incorporates all of those and more.
We're going to talk about the different levels and the training involved in the system of gyrokinesis later on this edition of Go Island. In the meantime, we're heading down to the Cowichan Valley. There's a connection between money and saving a First Nations language. Here's Meg Cuthbert. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. There is something empowering, sacred perhaps, spiritual for sure, in taking care of your own body, whether that be through yoga or running or dance or swimming, whatever your physical activity is. It doesn't have to be vigorous, and I'm being introduced along with you today to gyrokinesis. We're going to talk a little bit more with Holly Bright later on this edition of Go Island about the different levels of training and the program and the exercises that are gyrokinesis. We're going to throw things over now to, well, Edmonton. Students across Canada recently participated in the Shell Classroom Energy Diet Challenges, and here are the grand prize winners from Edmonton. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. Today we are introducing you to gyrokinesis, and from what I understand, Holly, the training is very intense to become an instructor.
It is. It's essentially a 3-year commitment, and I get to travel to find master trainers or to work with master trainers who have workshops planned, and I also get to deepen into the work by studying specialized courses, for instance, for those with scoliosis, for seniors, for people who love to golf or swim. It's ideal for athletes, for the general public, for those with injuries who are working through them, for dancers. It was designed by a dancer, and to keep us all mobile and moving as we age and enjoy life.
And the gyrokinesis is sort of part 1 of Gyrotonic.
The organization and the system is actually called Gyrotonic, and it's a sister system to Gyrokinesis. Gyrotonic uses a piece of equipment, and it provides resistance kind of at the level of water or swimming. So you get just enough resistance to support your movement or to build strength.
And you're giving private lessons.
I am giving private lessons in that.
Just had to throw that in there.
Thank you, Holly. It's been a great journey.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing gyrokinesis to Nanaimo. There are 3 instructors on Vancouver Island. Holly Bright is one of them. We're going to throw things over now to Jose Araujo. Here's a look at what's coming up on the next edition of The Scene. That brings us to the end of this edition of Go Island. If you're interested in learning more about gyrokinesis, you can visit crimsoncoastdance.org. Thanks for watching this edition of Go Island. If you would like us to visit you, you can email kate.bergen@sjrb.ca. And we need about 3 weeks notice these days. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.